Hello. In this video, we're going to solve internal. Internal is part of the offensive pen testing learning path on TryHackMe. And in my humble opinion, internal is honestly much easier to gain a foothold and get the root flags, so escalate the privilege. But maybe I'm just more confident in doing Linux machines. But hey, regardless, we're just gonna jump straight into it. I already started the Nmap scan, and I'm just gonna simply use tag T4 here today for the fastest scan, tag P tag for scanning all the port, tag capital A for aggressive, and tag VB for very verbose. And we're just gonna paste the IP. I'm not gonna output the file this time. You can go ahead and output it if you want, but I know there's only 2 ports that are open, so it's not going to be a lot for us to work on. Before we start enumerating through the port 80, probably the best way to do enumeration is start on the port 80, so basically on the browser, and maybe FurrockBuster and GoBuster and so on. I'm just going to read the scope of work. So there it is. Task 1, pre-engagement briefing. You have been assigned to a client that won a penetration test conduct on an environment due to be released to production in 3 weeks. Scope of work. The client requests that an engineer conducts an external web app and external assessment the provided virtual environment. The client has asked that minimal information be provided about the assessment, warning the engagement conduct from an eye of a malicious actor, like bug penetration tests. The client had asked that you secure 2 flags, no location provided, as proof of exploitation, user.txt and root.txt. Additionally, the client has provided the following scope allowance. Ensure that you modify your host file to reflect the internal THM. Any tool or technique permit in this engagement. Locate and note all vulnerabilities found. Submit the flag discover to the dashboard. Only the IP address assigned to your machine is in scope. Roleplay off. I encourage you to approach this challenge as an actual penetration test. Consider the writing report to include executive summary, vulnerability and exploitation summary, assessment, remediation suggestion, as this will benefit you in penetration for the e-learning security, ECPPT, or career as a penetration tester in the field. Note, this room can be completed without Metasploit. Rather will be not accepted for this room, but it's already 1400 days old, so I think there's plenty of write-up out there. But we're just gonna work on our own. I'm already solved this room, as you can see. So I'm not gonna click on this. Well, you already see the flag, but hey, don't worry about it. I think it's pretty straightforward. It's gonna be a lot of enumeration in this room, so the way I basically exploit this room is just to try to be as patient as possible. I think the best way is to just keep an eye on thing when you enumerate. That's how you're gonna get the initial foothold. So we're just gonna go ahead and this IP to the etc host. Just gonna do some blur. I know you could tee it to the ECT host by echoing it, but I like to use a blur so everything is more clear. So etc host, have the password, the PNPT local here, but this is for my Active Directory home labs. Don't worry about this. Just gonna add this, press the tab and type internal.thm. So basically we're just gonna follow this. So modify your host to reflect internal THM. So add the host correlate to the IP that we are penetration testing. Save that, and that should be fine here. Now instead of just type the IP, we just go straight to your internal THM. So internal THM. Oh, I forgot I have to type HTTP. If we don't, we basically redirect to Google for some reason. And in here, there's basically not much we can work on. Basically showing the Apache 2 Ubuntu default page, and it is working. So since it is still scanning, again, there's only 2 ports that is opening. Already done the scanning before. All right, so the Nmap is ready and it's output the result. And again, there's only 2 ports that is available, and one is port 22 for SSH, so we can't really do much on this, and port 80 for HTTP, and it is Apache HTTPD 2.429. So there's not much for us to work on. All right, so we're going to go ahead and use FurrockBuster for directory busting, and for the syntax of FurrockBuster, we're just gonna use tag U for URL. So type http internal.thm, tag W for the word list. It is stored in user share word list dirbuster, and it is the word list of directory list 2.3 medium. .text, and then tag R for recursive, and then tag K to disable the SSL certificate verification, tag capital C to filter out any bad status code. So I like to use 40142, those 400 code and 500 codes. Just gonna filter all that out, and we're gonna do an output with tag O and type the name of the output file. I like to use Flux. You could name whatever you want from here. And I'm just gonna go ahead and give it a scan. Oh, there it is. I'm just gonna go ahead and stop the scan here. As you can see here on Buster, we find a WP login.php. So we're just gonna go ahead and navigate to that. And yeah, so it is a login page. So we could try using admin as a random credential. With random credential, you can see here it say unknown username. Check again and try your email address. And WordPress have this weird information disclosure kind of exploit or vulnerability that if you type a valid username, say admin, and type a random password, I'm just gonna type 1234, it doesn't matter. And if I log in with a bad credential, basically bad password, with a valid username, it's gonna say error, your password enter for username admin is incorrect. So seeing so, it's basically telling you that admin user is existing in the system, but the password is wrong. So the better way to do this is actually using WP scan, and WP scan stands for basically WordPress scan. It's a great tool to scan WordPress. And I'm just gonna go ahead and type the syntax. I think it's just URL HTTP internal. So basically do a tag URL and basically paste the URL of this of internal THM block WP login.php and leave it for a bit. And it's gonna try to enumerate everything in the WordPress. So this is a great tool that we could use. I think the next step, we could also do a brute force with this too. I'm just gonna redo the step after the tool finished enumerating, and there it is. So there's not much to give us on this, but it's basically gonna find, well, a couple of interesting links. See if readme is available. No, readme is not available. I think we have to log in to see this, but we know, well, there's a cron.php in here too. We know that admin user is existing in the system or in WordPress. Again, your password enter for username admin is incorrect. So we actually could do a WordPress brute force for admins, and the syntax of that will be pretty much similar to Hydra. So with WP scan, we're gonna use tag capital U quote admin. So we just want to brute force the username admin, and tag capital P for the word list or password, and it's gonna try the word list of ragu.txt. It is in user share word list ragu.txt, and the URL is basically the URL that we're on now, the login page URL. I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. Does not exist in, haven't extracted ragu.txt yet. Let me copy a syntax for that. It's basically a one-liner. Boom. So I'm just gonna ls and see if ragu.txt is existing. Okay, now it's good. I'm just gonna cd back to home Kali thm internal and clear the browser, clear the terminal, and do the WordPress scan again. There it is. I forgot to extract it out of the zip file. The WordPress scan is gonna basically do a quick password attack of brute force, and I think it's gonna do a pretty quick job with this, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a few days since I done this room. There it is. It's performing password attack on WP login against one user, and it is admin. So we're just gonna try every possible password. There are a decent amount of password that's gonna try to attempt. Give it a bit of wait. I think it's gonna do an output for us if it successfully scanned the password. And it finished the brute force. I think the password is my boys. My two boys. Well, my two boys. We're gonna go ahead and type my two boys in here, so you can see here. I'm just gonna click remember me too, so I don't have to re-log in every time I launch the site. And it's a administration email verification. Please verify the administration email on the website, and the administration email is admin@internal.thm. So we're just gonna keep that in mind. I'm just gonna not update anything. I'm gonna leave this admin like it is, but we could actually, if a real world attack, I think we could basically change the email this to whatever email we want to use, and next time we just gonna have like a basically a backdoor system, whatever you want to call it, to log in. So whenever we send, if this website or this account has a two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication that send maybe a verification code back to the email, if we change the email to whatever email we want to use, we could basically send the two-factor authentication code back to us and basically get the backdoor, which is kind of fun. But here we are, we're in the dashboard of WordPress, and well, first thing first, we're just gonna scroll down here and look at the version, and it is version 5.4.2. So I'm just gonna Google that and type WordPress 5.4.2 exploit, and there are some good one we want to look at. I think the best one to look through is to find a remote code execution. So because we in dashboard and it is a PHP, WordPress usually use a PHP architecture, like code architecture, and we could basically upload a PHP file. So we're just gonna try to find a shell upload. Yeah, there it is, shell upload. Oh, this is just a shell. I'm gonna, we're just gonna try to find a place to upload the shell. Let's see. I think the way I found it is to basically type WordPress, not WordPress hacks, not Hacksploit, Hacktrick, and WordPress Hacktrick. So we're in WordPress Hacktricks, and let's see here, panel RCE or plugin RCE. You could find appearance, might be a good place. A plugin, you could upload a plugins. So I just want to skip the step here. You could try upload a PHP file, but it basically denies us from uploading it. Actually, I'm just gonna do it. So where is it at? The plugins, appearance plugin, add new. I already know that it won't work, so it's basically gonna deny us from uploading stuff onto the site, but it having a hard time running right now. So if it persists like this and take too long to respond, I'm just gonna go ahead and go straight to the right place to do the PHP reverse shell. Yeah, it has a really hard time. So there it is. It has a PHP file too, but I know for a fact it's the best way to look at this and say where to upload our PHP is to check if we could access back to the directory, and it say akismet.php is inactive, so we basically cannot, you know, re-access this. But if you go to media, let's see, media, and say add new, you could try upload something. I think it doesn't work on here too. It's one of those things. Actually I store my PHP file in tool. Oh, I never really have it actually. So we're just gonna download it. The PHP file we want to use for this is basically pentest monkey reverse shell. You could go ahead and search this on Google, or basically install HackTool extension. It's basically the same thing. All you need to do on HackTool is to basically type our IP. Mine is 10.13.47.211, and whatever port you prefer. I usually use 666, and basically download it. And once I download it, you could look into this. As you can see here, it already input our IP and our port in the PHP file. Again, it is pentest monkey reverse shell PHP. You could actually rename this. I like to rename it to shell.php and move it to tools, not THM. It's actually tool. That is shell.php. You could try upload this. I know for a fact you can't upload it on here because they say it's a bad extension. That is, this file is not permitted for security reason. So we're just gonna find alternative way to maybe paste our PHP file. And the first one on Hacktrick, it's a panel RCE, and you can see here you could basically paste the script onto a edit page of a template. This one is 2012, but I know you could basically paste the script anywhere else. And you go ahead and click on appearance. Theme editor is where we could paste our PHP file, and we're just gonna use the 404 template. As you can see here on the right side, it's a 404.php. We can click on that, and it's basically run a PHP script too. So all we have to do from here is to basically copy the reverse shell pentest monkey reverse shell.php and replace it with with the 404 template and update the file. I'm just gonna go ahead and run netcat on this with port 6666 and navigate to this template. You can go ahead and read the hack trick guide again and look at the where we could access the 404.php, and it does say here the theme is 2017. Basically, you know, change the 2012 to 2017. I'm just gonna go ahead and paste my note here. It's WP content. There it is. Makes sense to me now. So here we are. So instead of WP admin, we're just gonna navigate to WP content in theme and let it run, and we have the reverse shell. So again, if I curl it like this, internal, let's see, WP with 404.php this time. So WP content. Let me cancel this. Just want to see if it worked, like a proof of concept here. Again, this is curl http internal.thm blog WP content theme 2017 404.php. Clear this out, and if I press enter here, it should curl. And we got the reverse shell. There we go. Makes sense. So from here now, we could just type who am I, and we are www.hackdata. And to speed up our process here on this video, I'm just gonna go ahead and cd to temp and basically download the linpiece.sh, just a proof. So we could cd to home and then there we see Arbiana here. I don't think we could access to this page to this directory yet, so we could save this name as a enumeration. And as you can see here, Arbiana is a user on this system, but we can't cd to this directory yet because we don't really have permission to do so. We only www data. So the best way here is just run linpiece and let me cd to temp first if I could type. And LSC, there's coffee and stuff. So none of this are important. So we're just gonna do a wget. Let me run the linp.sh, run the Python server. So we're just gonna cd out to tools, and I'm just gonna ls. I already stored the linp.sh in tools because I like to be a little bit organized with this. The more organized it is, the better to do most of this CTF and stuff. It make the process much quicker, in my opinion. And I'm just gonna launch the Python server with port 8000, and I'm just gonna do a wget http, type the IP of the Python servers. Mine is 10.13.47.211, port 8000. Name of the file we want to download is linpiece.sh. I think we don't have to output this, so I'm just gonna download it like this and do an ls, and you can see linp.sh is stored in the temp directory. So you give it a chmod plus x, the executable permission, and type the linp.sh. Oh, if I could type it correctly again. So linp.sh, you could run it now with ./linp.sh and with launch linp. And it's gonna take a bit to enumerate, and linpiece.sh gonna do a pretty good job in scanning this. And you could find php db pass, php my admin. Some of these passwords look like it's useful, but don't jump and dive into the rabbit hole, because actually the best way to find the correct credential here is to just look for a not obvious, the non-obvious file one. But you can see here, you scroll up and find the other interesting files sections and look at the unexpected in ops or optional, if I'm not mistaken, usually empty. And we find a wp save.txt here. So just gonna copy the name of the file and basically do a hat opt, because that's where the directory is, and paste the name of the file and see the credential here. If you could remember, Arbiana is the user we're interested in, and there is a credential of Arbiana bubblegum at exclamation point at #123. That is could be the SSH credential. So we're just gonna exit on this. Just gonna go ahead and exit on this and try to SSH to Arbiana at 10.10.47.217.225. Yes. And our password for Arbiana is, again, I it is, let's see here, bubblegum exclamation point 123. You can paste that, and we're logged into Abriana, and we could try the ls here. ls. Well, anyways, we see jenkins.text and user.text first. If you want, we could basically cat user.text for now. I'm not too interested in the flag because I already got the flags, and it's say thm internal flag 1. So that's fine. We could find the flag, but the more interesting thing here is the jenkins.text. And if you could see here in jenkins.text, after we concatenate it, say internal Jenkins service is running on 172.17.0.2 at port 8080. What's that mean is there another service is running, and that service is Jenkins, and it's run on basically a different IP from the IP we're looking at. And it's also say a zombie process here. There's a zombie process running too. So keep that in mind. And if you look at the IP address, once we log into the SSH here, you see the process, and this might be the zombie process we're looking at, and it say Docker 0, and the port is basically the same port as the the IP is basically the same IP as the Jenkins service. It's just .1, this one is .2. So it's basically in this a similar subnet, if I'm not mistaken, similar network. It running the service Jenkins. So we could go ahead and do a SS ton here. If you remember the room game zone, I also did the room game zone. Game zone have a similar kind of thing going on. So game zone, we could type ss tag TULPN, look at the existing socket on Linux, and we use the TCP for tag T's TCP socket, and U socket is a UDP socket, tag L for listening socket, tag P for the process using the socket, tag N for numerical address instead of resolving host name. So the numerical address is basically the IP, and the port here again we can see port 8080 is listening, and it is at localhost, so 127.0.0.1. So with that hint, we can assume that we could do a port forwarding to this and try to basically launch the Jenkins service. So the way we do it, again, you could refer back to a video I did on Game Zone. It's also helpful to do this too. So thankfully, on the offensive pen testing learning path, we kind of come across this already, so that's a good thing. So how are we gonna port forward to this? We're basically gonna type SSH tag L and use whatever port you want to use. I prefer something like 6868 because port 8080 is also used for Burp Suite, so I don't want to reuse the Burp Suite port because I know we're going to use Burp Suite port. So to save you a little bit of time, I'm going to give you a hint here. We're going to use the Burp Suite to basically brute force into the network. It doesn't really need to, but it's it's good to know. So whatever port you want to use, you could use port 7777 or whatever port you prefer, as long as it doesn't duplicate the port you want to use for Burp Suite. And the IP of the Jenkins service, if you look back at the jenkins.txt again, and this is the port that the Jenkins service is running on, and the name of the user Abriana. And from here on out, we're just gonna copy and paste the IP of the machine, the instant we are attacking. And again, password for Abriana is bubblegum !#123. And since we are port forwarding right now, we basically launch the Jenkins service and basically could access to it on our browser. So the way we do that is basically type localhost and do a 6868, and there it is. We see a login page for Jenkins here, and this one is a bit harder to brute force. If you type a random credential, it's always gonna say invalid username or password, even if it's a valid username. You try admin, well, it's say invalid username or password, so it's not going to give us much clue. So the reason why I said to use port 6868 or whatever other port you want to use other than 8080 is to launch Burp Suite. And I haven't saved Burp Suite yet, so I have to create a proxy for Burp Suite. I know the there is title Burp Suite. This is not the most necessary thing. I know that we could do Hydra on this too, but I just want to check what's behind the access page, like the get request. So for Bird Suite, it is local host. So the IP is 127.0.0.1. Let's zoom in it for you again. And then Bird Suite use port 8080. So this is the default port for Bird Suite again. And I'm just gonna save that and basically launch Bird Suite, and basically launch it without having launch start Bird Suite. And I'm just gonna go ahead and look at the setting again. There it is. This is the Bird Suite proxy that we have to configure. I already done it. So 127.0.0.1 at port 8080, and since it is pretty small in terms of the text size, I'm just gonna change this. The way we change the size of this, just a self reminder too. Actually, we could do a HTTP message display, so whatever we intercept, I'm just gonna enlarge the size to 16 and display to 14, so make it a little bit bigger. Close that and turn on the intercept, and actually let me pin the proxy and turn on the proxy for Bird Suite, and then type a random credential, and it is intercept the credential once it we submit it. And this is very useful to look at. You can see here Jenkins HG security check, that should be included in our Hydra syntax. And I'm just gonna go ahead and paste the Hydra syntax here. So to speed up the brute force of this, I'm actually gonna use lookup Jenkins default credential on Google, and it usually say the default credential is admin password, so we could assume the username is admin. We don't know until we try, but I just want to save a little bit of time here. I think doing brute force on this is a little bit tough. If say if we write a report for this, I think if the user create a better account, say change the admin name to whatever more complicated and change the password, it would be much harder for us to brute force. But here we are. This is the Hydra syntax that we want to use. So I'm just gonna copy this onto our terminal. Control L here. Our Hydra syntax is pretty straightforward. If you look at it, it is pretty long though. It's pretty long to type, but it's pretty straightforward if we break it down here. So the Hydra syntax is tag L is the login username. So tag L is basically the username, and we're just gonna use admin. We're just gonna assume admin is existing in the system as the user, and tag P for password. If you could type the password word list that we want to use, it is ragu.txt again, and it's at user share word list ragu.txt. I'm just gonna type the IP. Since we are in localhost, we are port forwarding to localhost. It is port 127.0.0.1, and then tag S for the port, and the port we're using is 6868, and we want to check for the HTTP post form. And if we go back to the post form on Bird Suite again, it is saying /JHG security check. So it's basically in the quotation mark. Do that. So this is the same thing as the Bird Suite result down here. And we do a colon J username. So we're just gonna correlate this. So J username, there it is. And we do I think it's like up arrow looking sign here, and do a user, and then another up arrow looking sign, and do an and with the J password. Again, refer back to Bird Suite. It's basically the same kind of pattern to Bird Suite here. The post form, a post request, and from #to submit. So this is basically the same thing, and equal login. So this is the last line you want to type. So equal login and invalid username or password. So if you remember again, when we type a weird credential, there it is. We type a invalid credential, we keep getting invalid username or password. This is what we want to type into this Hydra syntax too. Basically, what Hydra gonna do is to do a brute force, and every time it see invalid username or password, it's just gonna keep brute forcing. And the next thing is we want to also type tag F. Tag F going to stop the Hydra whenever it find a valid credential. So we're just gonna go ahead and brute force, give it a couple of minutes, and it's gonna do the brute force for us. As you can see here, I didn't type tag VV because or tag V for verbose, because I don't want to see a list of invalid credential. I just want to see one credential that's worked. So this is the minimalistic way that could brute force with Hydra, we could use tag F like this. So whenever it finds a valid credential, and there it is, it find a valid credential. The password is SpongeBob, so whenever it finds a valid credential, it's just gonna output it to us and highlight it in green, which is very, very good. So this is the valid credential we want to use. It is admin SpongeBob as the password. So what this means is we are pivoting from service to service and try to privilege escalate from here. So this is the way we actually privilege escalating. We're just gonna log in as SpongeBob. I think I'm already, well, let me forward the request here. Well, let's say invalid. Let me paste this. It is SpongeBob. Password. Let me sign in. There we are signed in. So the credential for Jenkins, again, it is admin and password SpongeBob. So again, we have to port forward from the SSH to the servers here. This is the clue we got from Jenkins.txt, and we port forward. We launch the service with localhost, since we are forwarded to localhost at port 6868 or whatever port you want to choose. And now we log in with credential of admin SpongeBob. You could basically know if you've seen me doing plenty of room before, there are Jenkins, if I'm not mistaken, or Butler from TNPT. A lot of this are basically come back to us. The thing that we learned from the past is basically come back to us, which is wonderful. It's awesome to see. And the best way to get a remote script execution on this, or a reverse shell on this, is basically at script console. We find this console that we could basically type a script. The easiest way to do so is to look up rev shell generator or reverse shell generator on Google. This is the first one that come up. I think this one is created by 0 Day, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so 0 Day is basically the #1 THM user, so he'd rank basically #1. So thanks to him, we could use this rev shell page to basically write a GUI syntax. But it say here GUI script to execute this reverse shell, basically, or arbitrary code, whatever you want to use it. So we could scroll down and find GUI syntax here, and there it is. So everything looked fine here. Since we are on Kali, it used the shell sh and see this netcat. So if you used a window machine, you have to switch that to CMD or PowerShell, whatever you want to use. We are penetration testing a Linux machine, which is going to use SH, and the IP we want to use is the attack IP. So mine is 10.13.47.211, and the port here, whatever port you want, honestly, I'm just gonna use 999 this time. I'm filling the 9. So copy the result here and paste it on the script console. Before we do that, we have to launch another and type nclvmp, correlate the port to the script, so it is 999. And if you press run here and wait for this, see here, do another reverse shell, give it a bit. I think we all good here. So let me just type ID, and we are on the account of Jenkins. So see who am I? We are Jenkins. We could go ahead and import the ptty or pty. Do a quick Python pty bin bash here. We are again Jenkins. We could ls, and we could also cd to temp again. I know where the next clue is, but I'm just gonna cd to temp and basically run another netcat, not netcat, another lin piece. So launch another Python server and wget linp. There's no linp in here, just so you know. Yeah, so there's no linp. This is a separate IP, so we're just gonna have to download linp again. So 10.13.47.211 port 8000/linpiece.sh. It's gonna download linp again, and we're gonna chmod +x linp.sh, execute the linp.sh. Gonna do another scanning, another enumeration. This is the quickest way we could do it. Again, I just want to save time. It's already been an hour and a half. Again, this is seemed to be a hard room, but if you've done many room before from earlier on the same learning path, I think it's basically easier to navigate. Just be patient, enumerate, and keep all the notes, and it's gonna pay off. Basically what I've done before, I'm so happy I got into here. Even though it's a pretty hard room, it's a hard difficulty room, but it's not that difficult. It's just a lot of step to do. It's just gonna have to be patient, and I'm so happy to just do this room. It's actually a pretty good room. I'm just gonna leave a like here. Leave a like. Good room. So let it scan for a little bit. It's gonna take a bit to scan, and we're gonna come back once it's finished scanning. All right, the scan is finished. Just gonna scroll up again. I just want to save time and go ahead and go straight to the best place to look at thing. And the creator, the mayor, also left a note on op. So again, option directory is where he stored the notes. Just gonna cat that note.txt, and there it is. This is the credential for root, and we're just gonna copy that and save it, and we either sudo to root on this or SSH again. Let me sudo su. Well, we can't. Can we? No, we can't sudo su on here. We have to SSH actually. But there's already an SSH on this. I'm just gonna sudo su on this instead. Well, not really. Let me do it. Let me do it in a fresh tab. So open up a new tab. SSH. I don't want to retype the password of Arbiana again. So anyways, it worked either ways. As long as we got the credential, it's what it matters. So SSH root, and the password for root is troublegum !@ #123, and we are root. So if we ls and cat root x, and that is the root root flags. So that is Docker destroyer and internal flag 1. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do a one-liner again. Since we are in root.txt, I'm just gonna cat a root.txt, and then do a cd home Arbiana, do another nn cat user.txt, do a ifconfig or IPA also works, do a date, and that is our flag. So THM Docker destroyer is the root flag, THM internal flag 1 is the user flag, and the IP, you can see here there are multiple servers running. Docker is on the IP of 172.17.0.1, and the date is today, Tuesday, September 3rd. For some reason it doesn't print the way I want it to print, but we got the thing. Finished room, pretty good room to do. There's a lot of service pivoting, and I'm just happy to do this room. Honestly, that's the thing that I learned from the past. Actually built up the momentum and the skill for me to do this room. Basically solved this room on my own. It took about 2 days. Pretty fun room to solve, and yeah, hope you have a wonderful day. Hope this helps. All right, just for extra credit, I also want to show my notes. And this is the note I take. That's the flags, that the nmap scan, the port 80, a little bit of enumeration with Furrock Buster, at the ETT host and VPS scan. I also tried wfuzz too, to try to look for subdomain, but see nothing. Scan for subdomain doesn't work. WordPress, and we log into admin, so we highlight the errors here. Gonna question myself. Hydra, maybe. Actually, we can't brute force his password on wscan. I'm just gonna refer to blog. I also done a room called blog. So blogs also have a wscan, so WordPress too. A little bit of spoiler there. And the credential for admin on WordPress, it works. It showed the administration email verification, so I saved myself a little bit of info here. And look at the hack tricks. Scroll. And we look at the media, try to test for the shell.php. It's failed to upload. It's not permitted on Word shell. The theme editor is where we find our initial foothold, and we do a remote code execution. Not useful. I look for the secret key here. So basically, once I got the remote code execution, I tried to do multiple enumeration on multiple files, but no use. So I just ended up use linpiece, and linpiece, well, I also copy a few rabbit hole password and credential. Not useful. So I went ahead and looked for the op directory and see wp save here and find our user credential for Arbiana. And we're gonna SSH to Arbiana and then ask myself port forwarding. And I also link back to Game Zone, a room we're done on offensive pen testing learning path on TryHackMe. So I just basically copy the syntax, try port forward the SSH or SSH tunneling. That's the correct way to say it, I guess. And now navigate to localhost 6868. Nothing worked. Try default credential from Butler. Still doesn't work. Gotta use Burp Suite. Burp Suite use port 8080. So we find that. Show all the step. And basically brute force on Hydra and find the password SpongeBob. Success. And since I've done so many Jenkins room now, this time my third or fourth time doing a Jenkins room service. So I basically understood where to go from here. Do a groovy syntax, paste the groovy syntax, get the remote code execution. So do a pty import from here and run a linp again. And since I kind of like understood where the credential is being stored, like all the hints, we see node.txt here. I also save some of these backup file here just in case I need it, the path of it. And I basically type okay. Basically store all the credential in node.txt. That's plain text. That's pretty easy to look into. And here it is. That is where I want to come to. So I wrote. So this is the summary, and I went ahead and wrote write an executive summary for this room since I like it very much. And there it is. The summary: a penetration test on internal co-op. I just make the name up. On September 3rd, 2024, on an environment due to be released to production in 3 weeks. A security pen test is simulate cyber attack on a computer system or network. The goal of the test is to identify and exploit vulnerability in the system in order to assess the system security posture. Penetration tests are important and part of the comprehensive security strategy. It can help organizations identify and fix vulnerability before they are exploited by attackers. Key finding: initially we gain access to Apache 2 Ubuntu default page, the landing page, but after directory busting, after doing directory busting, we can access to the login page for WordPress. WordPress is susceptible to information disclosure vulnerability by showing a valid account of admin. When doing brute forcing attempt, the admin account has a weak credential. WordPress is also susceptible to remote code execution that enable attacker to successfully launch a reverse shell and access the web account. After enumerating through the account, there is a valid user credential stored and accessible to pivot using secure shell SSH, which allowed attacker to retrieve the first flag. I don't know, I should include this in a real world report, but you know, CTF perspective, kind of fun. A text document informed the service Jenkins is running on another service called Docker. Attacker pivot to the service by using the user credential stored in the system. Jenkins account also has a weak credential that allowed attacker to brute force the password. The service allowed attacker to run arbitrary code to pivot and find another credential to escalate and gain root access and retrieve the second flags. Remediation suggestion: strong password policy. Well, the two password that we got was, well, there are 4 passwords, but the 2 service account password was my 2 boys and SpongeBob. So that should be implemented. So implementing minimum character to at least 16 character and a mix of letter, numbers, and symbol, which can discourage attacker from brute forcing the credential. Attempt limit policy: timeout multiple failed logging attempt, keeping attacker from brute force the attack. Multi-factor authentication. I like this. Well, it could be work, but it could be a pains in the butt too if you fail. If you are a legit user and fail the login attempt, so you have to contact help desk to basically reset your account. That could be painful, but needed if you want to secure. It's basically what I suggest here. It's just a multi-layer security. It's not necessarily like the most secure way to do things, but I think just implement a few step, like just the 6-step, I think it helps a lot. Of 5-step, I can't count. So multi-factor authentication and authentication process should be enabled when account being accessed on a service like WordPress or Jenkins. So we saw WordPress was has a let's scroll up. Let's scroll back up here and find WordPress. There it is. So we saw WordPress has a user administration email verification. If this won't show up, it would be much better. And also, when you're logged in, instead of asking to verify the email, it should ask for the code, like the 2-step verification code. Just do that. It would be much easier. Showing this, I could basically update the email and basically update it to whatever email I want to update to and get the verification code, which is kind of fun. Store credential. Sensitive credentials should not be stored in plain text files. This is a weakness. Everybody have done it, you know, everybody done it. So implement, you know, should implement, I should add this, should implement a password manager. Sensitive information disclosure. Critical documents such as service information and credentials should not be stored and accessible on the system. So this is like similar, but we see a node.txt or like Jenkins.txt and it say which IP was running to what port, and we could basically SSH tunnel to that port and IP, which is kind of fun. But anyways, this is my summary. I said goodbye before, but this time say goodbye again. A fun room. I enjoy it a lot. I'm doing a lot of this in PNPT too. So it's been a fun, like kind of like accumulative process where I accumulate all the knowledge and finally everything comes together pretty nicely. But that's it for this video. Hope you have a fantastic day. Goodbye.